All right, peace and wellness family. I hope that y'all are well and happy and whole and all that good stuff. I am the Queen Poe, and the intention for this live is for us to have a little Q&A. A little Q&A. I haven't done this publicly with my YouTube family in a while, but I do it with the wellness community quite often. Shout out to the tribe. Shout out to the wellness community. Butterflies in the sky. As always, love y'all dearly. Now, let me be very clear. Let me be very, 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 very clear. Very, 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 very. The intention of this live is for us to have a Q&A about anything centered in spirituality, holistic wellness as a whole. So if you have a question about spirituality, about spiritual practice, about any aspect of mental, emotional, physical, spiritual wellness, feel free to ask that question. I will try to answer as many questions as I can before I get started, okay? And once I get started, I'm checking out the game. I'm checking out, not the game permanently. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Okay, but I'm logging out, all right? Now, yes, 2 videos in one day. If y'all wasn't here earlier, I already did the full moon in Scorpio live. I did that one a little earlier. And then I said, you know what? Let me go live and do a little Q&A with the with the wellness community, with the public YouTube, because I was in the wellness community and I saw a couple of people ask questions. And I said, you know what? Let me do a open Q&A for everybody. But I'm going to start out with answering the questions that was asked in the wellness community earlier when I did the full moon in Scorpio live. Okay. First off, Sage, shout out to Sage. Sage asks, peace, queen and fam. If someone is getting baptized, is there anything that can be done to protect or restore their covering? I was thinking about this since your live the other day. Now, for those of you who are not in the wellness community, you don't know, but I often, Patreon has a live feature. So I go live in the wellness community and I talk and I be sharing and be, answering questions, and we be talking about the things. I just did a live last night when I came home from Tina Knowles' book tour. Sometimes the lives be an hour, 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 3 hours, right? I have a 3-hour one still saved, okay? But yes, and during those lives, like I said, I'll be answering questions and I talk and I share certain things. So the live that Sage is referring to is a live where I talked about, a lot of trepidation that old school root workers have when they would talk about the church, right? So specifically speaking of the covering, something that has to be kept in mind, and let's be clear, let me be very clear when I say this. Now that hoodoo is more popular and people are starting to see the threads between hoodoo and Christianity, and how a lot of our African American ancestors who were enslaved had to hide their practices within the church, a lot of people who grew up very Christian are now saying that they grew up hoodoo. And I say, you did not. And that is okay. Yes, there's a lot of hoodoo in the church. I have an old video on African spirituality and Christianity that you can go watch. I actually have a couple of them, but I have a older one that went, that was very popular. But I talk about the details of the similarity between Christianity and African spirituality in that video. I won't get into all of them in this moment. But I say, you did not necessarily grow up hoodoo just because you grew up in a black church. Simply because, and hear me closely, if your elders and ancestors was rebuking the root workers, you did not grow up hoodoo. You did not. You grew up Christian, and that is okay. That is okay. And this is important to note when answering that question, because a lot of times, in present day, people are saying, oh, I grew up hoodoo, but because they grew up in the black church. But growing up in the black church does not mean you grew up hoodoo. It means you grew up in the black church where there are certain aspects of hoodoo that's within the black church culture. But the intention, growing up hoodoo, is having the intention to work the root. The intention in the black church was not to work the root. Most often, those elders and some now ancestors were rebuking the root workers. So if you grew up in a family where your people was rebuking the root workers and rebuking the witches and rebuking the people, That you didn't grow up hoodoo, baby. Their intention was not to work the root. Their intention was not to connect with ancestors and practice ancestor veneration. They was rebuking what you saying you grew up as. That's, you didn't grow up. You grew up Christian, and that is okay. Now, present day, a lot of hoodoo practitioners, a lot of root workers will try to, they are incorporating the church within their hoodoo practice, and that's your business. When it comes to being baptized, it's important to protect yourself. If you are a root worker, if you are a person who practices ancestor veneration, if you are a person who's spiritual, it's important to protect yourself in the midst of that, okay? Simply because when you go to get baptized in the church, they're rebuking and praying away your ancestral covering, because that ancestral covering is not in alignment with Christianity as practiced in the Black church. So what they're trying to baptize off of you is that covering that you have been working to align with, right? They're rebuking your ancestor veneration. They're rebuking your spiritual gift of being able to connect with spirit and connect with ancestors. The very thing that you are rooted in is the very thing that they are rebuking. So if you are choosing to incorporate your spiritual practice within the church, there's certain protection work that has to be done so that they don't pray away your covering. Okay, because they're going to, that's their intent. Their intent is to rebuke all of that off of you, is to pray away all of that, or pray away them ancestral demons as they see them, pray away that evil, right? That's what happens. That's what their intent is. So, because they only believe that you should be covered in the blood. Right? They believe the only covering is the covering of the blood of Jesus. They don't want to hear you being covered and protected by no ancestors. They don't want to hear you connecting with the spirit. The only thing you should be connected with is the Holy Ghost. They don't think you should be connected with no ancestral spirits and stuff like that. So again, they are praying away the very thing that you are attempting to build relationship with. So you have to do some protection work if you choose to get baptized in the church. There are a lot of benefits of being baptized in the church, but that's just something you have to be mindful of. Now, what that protection work looks like: number one, cover your crown. Cover your crown. So in traditional church baptism, you would dress it all white, right? From my experience in the church back in the day, I don't know if times have changed, okay, but my experience in the church back in the day, you would dress in all white for baptism, okay? So you want to cover your crown. So you are dressed in the white, your crown is covered. Now, in your covering, you can put certain protection in your covering, and whatever protection is aligned with you. I would suggest making up a little protective mojo bag and tucking that in that crown wrap. Okay, tucking it in that wrap. Make you a little mojo bag and tuck it in the wrap. Okay. Also, if they allow you to wear socks in there, you can also tuck a mojo bag in your socks. Get you some thick white tube socks and tuck your protection work in your sock. Now, in that mojo bag, you can have some crystals for protection. You can have some herbs that's aligned with protection. You can definitely have a paper written with your intentions and your protective prayer on you. But essentially what you are intentionally protecting is your ancestral protection and your ancestral connection. Okay, that's what you are protecting. So that's something that you can do if you are choosing to get baptized in the church. Another thing that's going to be important is when that preacher is praying over you, you need to be saying your own prayer. You need to be saying your own prayer, because like I said, they're praying away the very thing that you want to connect with and the very thing that you've been working for. They're praying away that spiritual gift, right? They're praying away your ability to connect with ancestors because they view that as demonic. So you need to make sure that you are saying a prayer of gratitude and alignment with your ancestors and with all spirits that's aligned with you and connected to you for your wellness, right? Benevolent energy. You make sure that you are calling them in as well. So while they calling in Jesus, you are calling in your ancestral energy. You are calling in your spirit guides that's aligned with you with wellness and benevolence. You're calling that energy in while they call in Jesus, okay? So there needs to be a private prayer that you are saying while they're saying that Jesus-centered prayer, okay? You said more like they're nearly praying. You know, the thing is, it's the interesting part about it is that we have to remember that, and a lot of people don't like talking about this, but the reality is that Christianity worked for a lot of people's ancestors, right? And a lot of people who are present day hoodoo practitioners feel comfortable connecting with Christianity, despite the fact that Christianity may not align with their hoodoo practice, right? Despite that they may be somewhat opposing, because again, they're rebuking the very thing that you are connected to. So despite that, a lot of people still choose to incorporate Christianity within their practice, right? Because at the end of the day, that is a part of their ancestral practice, right? So I'm a person where, thankfully, I have a positive relationship with Christianity, although I understand how Christianity was weaponized during colonization. I was blessed to be able to travel to Ethiopia and study the roots of Christianity. So I know and understand the roots of the religion, of the tradition. So I understand, right? I also don't come from a line of Christian ancestors. My ancestors were, for the most part, free-flowing spiritualists. I have one grandmother who was a Jehovah's Witness. I can't say up until the day she died, but a part of her life, she was a Jehovah's Witness, But yeah, so she's the only one. Everybody else was kind of like free-flowing spiritualists, and did their own thing, did their spiritual thing in their own way and explored, But what I do know is that Christianity worked for a lot of people. It worked for a lot of people's ancestors. So I don't think it's a part of the history that we should be deleting. Right? I think it is a part of the history that you should honor, right? When we talk about ancestor veneration, you have to practice and not practice, but you have to honor the ways of all of your ancestors, including the ones who, was calling on Jesus. Okay, including them, including the ones who was calling on Jesus, so we have to honor all of our ancestors. I always say people like to pick and choose their favorite ancestors. But when you do an ancestor reading, or even you do, you get divination in any type of ATR, you'd be surprised what ancestors actually show up for you. A lot of times it's the ones that you least expect that are really guiding you. And sometimes it could be those deep, serious Christian ones, right? So you do need to, in order for you to elevate in your practice and elevate in your spirituality, you might need to connect with those Christian ancestors. And it doesn't mean that you have to convert to Christianity or practice Christianity, but in order to align with them, you might have to connect with some of their practices and some of their ways, So again, just venerating and honoring all your ancestors. Okay, now let me go to the top here, because I want to answer as many questions as I can from the top without skipping past anybody. Samantha Monroe said in the beginning, I have a question. What do you do when you're, let me put it on the screen. I have a question. What do you do when you're in the in-between phase where your old life is no longer here, but your new life hasn't arrived? You're in a space of uncertainty when when trying to heal, you have, excuse me, y'all, I keep burping, lost everything from your old, but nothing from your new has arrived. You feel lost and confused. That's a good question, right? So essentially, when you are in that in-between space of your old life and your new life, you are in that in-between space of a quantum jump or a quantum leap. That is usually the time where people self-sabotage, right? Because you start to feel stuck, you start to feel lost, you start to feel disconnected. I told y'all one of the biggest signs that you are quantum jumping or quantum leaping is you feel detached from everything and everyone around you. It's such a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling, but you feel like nothing belongs to you. You feel just detached. It almost feels like you're floating through the world and you don't know what's happening. I remember the first time it happened to me, and I was sitting at lunch with a friend, and I told him, I was explaining this feeling. I said, I just feel weird. I feel disconnected, but I feel detached. I feel like I'm floating. I was explaining, and he looked at me. He said, "Nigga, you about to die?" And I was like, no. But I don't know how to describe how I'm feeling. In hindsight, I now know, based on experience and education, that I was in the midst of a quantum jump. And that phase of detachment and disconnection and it just not being sure can be very scary to some people. So it's good that you can recognize that you're in that phase, but also you have to be willing to be comfortable in that phase. Don't self-sabotage yourself, right? Don't stop going, don't stop growing, don't stop thriving, don't lose focus. Continue to focus on the fact that you know your new life is manifesting. You know you are in the midst of your quantum jump or your quantum leap. Focus on that. Don't self-sabotage. Don't ruin your blessing, your growth, your jump. And that it can happen. And it can happen by simply going back to your old ways of living and your old ways of thinking and your old ways of practicing. It happens by going back to those old relationships that you had to cut off in order to be able to elevate. Those are just some of the ways that people self-sabotage. So you have to have a strong level of stick-to-itiveness in by continuing to do the work that you are doing that's leading you to that quantum jump or that quantum leap in the first place. And anybody who is new here, I have a whole video on quantum leaping or quantum jumping on my page. You can type in the Queen Poe quantum and it should pop right up for you, so you can get more details on what quantum jumping or quantum leaping is and how to get to the next step or the next phase of it for you. Thank you. I appreciate the love. Thank you. Okay, let me see. I'm scrolling down. Oh, thank you. This is a Sephora. I forgot the name of it, but it's a Sephora lipstick. And then I mixed it with a Sephora and the lip bar. It's two different colors though. The lip bar color is a little lighter to like blend it out. Let me see. You said, so my girl, Miss Poe. Hey, Lewis. I feel like it's some gifts that need to be restored. What should I do? If you feel like it's some gifts that need to be restored, you number one need to take a cleansing and purification bath. You need to do a road opener, okay? And you could do a road opener by doing some workings outside of yourself, meaning like outside of just a spiritual bath or energy working on yourself. You can do some candle working for a road opener. You can also do a foot wash for a road opener. I put a road opening foot wash in the Patreon, what was that, last week sometime or a couple weeks ago by this point maybe, but I put a foot wash for that as well. I also have a road opener that's dealing in some candle workings and offerings and things like that in there as well. So you could just, in the wellness community, you could type in road opener, but that's what needs to be done, right? So you need to do a purification spiritual bath, also known as a white bath. And in the Patreon, we have one called the 111 bath. You can do that as well. And then you also need to do the foot wash and then also do the head wash, which is helps to cleanse and feed the Ori. Cleanse your crown, okay? Because if you have some spiritual gifts that need to be restored, it's many different reasons why those spiritual gifts may have decreased in appearance for you or decreased in connection for you. And those reasons could be infinite. It could be something that you have done. It could be something that somebody has done on you. But the head wash, the foot wash, road opener, doing the road opener, doing the purification bath are all ways that you can kind of cleanse and remove any of those reasons, okay? And it'll also help you just strengthen your connection to your Ori as well. Can you give any advice on a spiritual and or holistic path for healing addiction, anxiety, and depression? So those would be three different things that need to be healed. More than likely, the depression and the anxiety is what's leading to the addiction, right? So we would need to work backwards in a sense, because the addiction may be the more pressing issue. That's the more forward-facing issue would be the addiction. But in order to really heal it, you have to address the triggers that led to the addiction, which would likely be the depression and the anxiety. Now, there's a plethora of different herbs that I can share with you for anxiety as well as for depression, but I'll focus on like the big heavy hitters. For depression, St. John's wort is a good herb. But anytime I give a herb for depression or anxiety or anything like that, I have to say this. In order for it to be effective, you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent. When I say herbs or anything like that, people think it's like a one and done or a once when you feel like it and done. You have to handle herbs just like you would handle a pharmaceutical medication that a doctor prescribed you. If a doctor gave you an antidepressant or anti-anxiety pill, you have to treat the herbs that same way. So you would have to be willing to essentially take them every day, right? And in some cases, you may have to drink 2 cups of herbs a day. You may need to take one earlier in the day and one in the evening before bed. But herbs for the number one herb for depression is St. John's wort. That's very, very good. And then also you need things that are going to elevate your energy, right? So Siberian ginseng is very good for that. Sarsaparilla is very good for that, right? You also can do your citruses where you have your lemon, okay? Lemongrass is also very good for that. For the anxiety, so the thing about depression and anxiety is that they are on 2 opposite ends of the pole depending upon the extremity, right? So you would have to be mindful of how you are combining these herbs. Now, if you are going to do the St. John's wort is going to handle the depression, but you want to be mindful about not doing the other herbs that's going to, like Siberian ginseng, that's going to elevate the energy, because that could then trigger anxiety, right? Because it's going to trigger the energy. It's going to elevate the energy, which could trigger scattered thoughts. It can trigger feelings of being anxious, right? Anxious emotions and anxious thoughts and anxious feelings. So you don't want to necessarily do the other herbs like Siberian ginseng that's going to pick up your energy. The St. John's wort would just kind of elevate you out of the depression and bring you to a sense of balance. And then if you have the anxiety, you are also going to need calming things so you can remain calm in the midst of the balance. Now, the only downside is that a lot of the side effects of anti-anxiety herbs like kava kava, I'm giving you some now. Kava kava, ashwagandha is also good. Damiana is also good. Lemon balm is also good, right? Passion flower is also good. Valerian root is also good. There's a large variety of herbs that's good for anti-anxiety. But the thing about that is a lot of the side effects of those herbs is that they relax you. So you need to make sure you are incorporating that St. John's wort, because you don't want to get so relaxed that it leads to deeper depression. Because a lot of people who deal with deep depression, oftentimes they can become so almost melancholy that it kind of leads to negative self-talk and negative thoughts, which then takes us to the mental wellness aspect. I'm going to recommend a book by Iyanla Vanzant called Get Over It, where she talks about DNTPs, which is dominant negative thought patterns. And she teaches you how to address and how to deal with these dominant negative thought patterns and how to really help you kind of get over it, right? Get beyond the mind of self-sabotage and the mind of self-doubt and address the trauma. So I'm going to recommend that book to you as well. And then the last thing that I would recommend, other than the herbs, and the herbs would be for your physical, something you can do for the physical. The book would be something you could do for the mental. I'm going to also recommend that you be consistent with your spiritual baths, because depression and anxiety can both be impacted by energy, right? Too much stagnant energy and being surrounded by too much negative energy. Be mindful of what you watch. Be mindful of what you take in. Be mindful of physical contact that you allow people to have with you. And when I say physical contact, I'm talking about be mindful of the hands you shake, be mindful of the people you hug, be mindful of the people that you make physical contact with and where you touch them and how you allow them to touch you. Just be mindful of those things, because all of those things are energy exchanges, okay? So you want to be mindful. Now, with that being stated, if you are in a career field where you exchange a lot of energy, if you have children who go to school and they're exchanging a lot of energy and you're coming in contact with them, you are picking up that energy as well. You may want to take a spiritual bath every single day. If you can't do a spiritual bath every day, the same tools that you would put in a spiritual bath, you need to boil them on the stove, let it cool down, and rinse yourself off with them in the shower. We call that a spiritual shower. So you can take a spiritual shower. You want to be consistent about cleansing your spiritual energy on a daily basis, okay? That's going to be super duper duper important. And then I also recommend next to your bed, right, you want to do a combination of mint and lavender, okay? The lavender helps to calm, the mint helps to pick up and elevate the positive energy and positive thoughts, open up the third eye, open up that crown chakra, okay? So the lavender will help calm the lower energy points like that solar plexus, which is your emotion body, that sacral, which is your intuition, creativity, as well as emotions, divine feminine emotions. So you want to really use that lavender to help you calm and use that mint to help you open up and connect with spirit and be more connected to your ori, okay? So next to your bed, you can literally keep a bowl. Next to my bed, I have a little pot that I put some fresh lavender in and other herbs and things like that. I put sandalwood, palo santo, different herbs in there, and I keep that next to my bed. You should keep lavender and mint. If you don't want to do like fresh herbs, you can get a diffuser and put the diffuser next to your bed and just put a couple of drops of lavender oil and a couple of drops of mint oil. If you don't have a peppermint oil, you can also use a citrus like an orange or a lemon as well, okay? And that'll help to pick you up a little bit. Okay. Hey, wellness community. Let's see. You said your auntie had wishbones hanging up. Come on, wishbones hanging on the wall. How to make a honey/sugar jar for oneself. Thank you. This is so popular right now. This thing became viral on TikTok, and it has become just like the tizzy and the spiritual community. And a lot of people are going back and forth about it, about whether or not you should put yourself in a jar, you should make a honey jar or a sugar jar for yourself. Which one is better, sugar or honey? I kind of addressed this a little bit on the Center's review where I talked about this. Now, I'm going to tell you, traditionally, and this is what we have to keep in mind, that hoodoo or root was practiced differently depending on location, okay? Your ancestors used what they had depending on where they were, okay? So honey or sugar can work. The ancestors also used the saps, right? And this is when I'm going to teach a very quick history lesson. During the Great Migration, a lot of our ancestors, including mine, my grandfather moved during the second Great Migration in the 50s, okay? But there was an earlier Great Migration that happened in the early 1900s, which really sparked the Harlem Renaissance and that whole movement, right? So we have to consider that. Our ancestors didn't just stop at New York. Some of y'all ancestors went to places like Canada. They went Midwest to Chicago. They went all the way West Coast to areas like Oakland and going up to the Bay and things like that, LA, San Diego, areas like that, right? So it's so important to keep in mind that they had to adjust their workings based on what they had. Now, if your people came from Gullah Geechee territory, sugar cane was very popular in Gullah Geechee territory. If your people were from the Caribbean, the sugar cane was popular there. So sugar jars would be more aligned with you. If your ancestors, if you had some who went way up north to like Canada, then they more than likely would have used the maple, because saps and resins were also used as well. And then you have people who used honey, and those would be more of like your bayou workers, right? But a lot of bayou workers, people Louisiana, Mississippi, in the Delta, they would use the honey or the sugar. Some of them would use the sugar cane too, especially in the bayou as well. They would use the sugar cane as well. So the honey or the sugar would do for them. So honey or sugar is good. Anytime you do a sweetening jar, anything sweet would work. Okay, so you could use the honey, you could use the sugar, you could use the maple. They even used molasses and dates and apples and things like that, right? A lot of, I know apple workings are very popular. It was very, especially up north in New York. It was, apple workings is a thing, were a thing. The apples and the cinnamon, they would literally dry apples and cinnamon out and hang them over the threshold, right, to attract abundance, So that was a very popular working in New York City, okay? So again, you just have to know where your ancestors are from and just try different things to see which one is aligned with you. Now, in the jar, you want to, depending on what your intention is, you want to write on a paper what your intentions are, essentially write a prayer for self. So you want to write that on the paper, you want to place that in the jar, and then you want to pour your offerings over the paper. So the paper goes in the jar first. Now, what I do suggest, though, is putting something for protection in that jar with that paper. So inside of that paper, you can fold up a bay leaf. You can add some salt. You can add some activated charcoal. You can also add a cinnamon stick to that and wrap the paper around those herbs and then put them in the jar. And then you want to pour your honey or your sugar over it, okay? You can also add any other herbs you want to for abundance. You can add your pine, you can add your cinnamon, you can add your apple, you can add any other herbs that you want to that's aligned with abundance. And then you want to pray over it. You want to smudge it and pray over it. Now, what are you going to smudge it with? You can smudge it with anything that's aligned with abundance. So you can use basil to smudge it with. You can use Palo Santo to smudge it with. You can smudge it with cinnamon if you want to. Any herb that's aligned with abundance, you can smudge it with, and then you want to seal it. Now, whether or not you should seal the jar, people go back and forth about this, but I'm saying, let me be clear. That debate is illogical. That debate is illogical. That debate is illogical. Some people are saying, oh, well, when you put a cap on the jar, you are blocking your blessings because you're capping the jar. That is illogical. That is illogical. That sounds smart on a surface level, on a surface level. But let's think about and consider all jar workings, right? When you do any type of jar working, and this is within Hoodoo, within Root, and also in ATRs, right? When you have a pot and things like that. When you put a covering or you put something to seal it, it is sealing it to protect it. It's not sealing it to block the blessings. When you say things like that, you are essentially saying that intentions have no power. You're saying that the physical act of putting the lid on the jar or closing the jar or putting the candle wax around it beats the intention that you have when you do it, which is not true. The power is in the intention. So when you seal it, you are protecting it. This is why all jars are sealed. Anytime you do any type of jar work, you seal the jar to protect it, not to block the blessings or close the roads. Like I said, that is illogical. This is where it's like people are just making up rules to try to turn Hoodoo into a religion and doing that Christian fear mongering thing, right? Ooh, if you put a lid on the jar, you're going to block all of your blessings. No, you put the lid to protect your blessings, right? You are protecting any intervention, any outside sources. So once you put that lid on it, you then want to seal it with candle wax. Now you can seal it with the white candle wax, okay, for protection. You can also seal it with a candle wax that is a reflection of your favorite color because this is your jar. So you want all things that are in alignment with you. Also keep in mind that when it comes to adding to the jar, what you put in the jar, you can also put money. If it depends on what you want to manifest, right? So you can put things in the jar that's in alignment with your manifestation. So also in addition to the herbs and to the honey or the sugar or whatever you use, and you want to also add things that's in alignment with the manifestation. So if you want to manifest money, you need to add money to the jar. If you want to manifest a house or a place to live, you may want to put a key in the jar. It depends on what you want. Or you can add some of the dirt from the land that you want to the jar, right? It just depends on what you want. You can add that to the jar. And again, you can also add some of your own perfume, some of your own DNA, your hair, your saliva, a nail clipping to the jar as well, or any other form of DNA that you fit. You can add that to the jar as well. Again, this is your own personal jar that's in alignment with you. So you want to make sure that you infuse it with your energy. That's the point of it. And again, you want to seal it to protect it, and then you want to close it and cover it and cloak it with the candle wax. And when I say cloak it with the candle wax, I'm talking about you literally want to cloak the jar with the candle wax. When I say cloak, I mean cover. That's very important for me. If you are going to do a jar for yourself, is if you can, either you need to keep that jar far away from any place that anybody can intervene with its energy, right? So you want it anywhere that nobody can get to or nobody can connect with. Your personal jar is not something that you want to make a necklace out of and wear like a mojo bag. Your personal jar is not something you want to have in the living room for decoration where anybody who comes around, including your own friends and family, can be able to interact with it. You want it to be in a sacred, safe space, okay? So keep the jar in a private space and make sure it is completely covered and sealed for protection, okay? And you can do that with the candle wax, all right? How do you get in touch with your gifts that you have? Like one of the clairs. I'm not sure if I have any. I actually have a whole video on the clairs. Okay, I think it's called The Clairs, or maybe Four Clairs. But you can go watch that video. I go in great detail about the four main clairs, which is claircognizance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and clairvoyance. I go in details about all of them, and then it's also time stamped. I give advice on how to tap into each of the clairs, and I talk about crystals and herbs and practices and all of that stuff. I think I might even give some journal prompts as well, where you can do the work to tap into those clairs and connect to that spiritual gift. Okay, so again, that video on YouTube, you could just type in like Queen Poe clairs or Queen Poe spiritual gifts. I also have another video where I talk about what type of career path you should take depending on what your spiritual gift is. Okay, which I need to do a follow-up video to that as well. Let's see. How do I deal with the narcissist mother? You don't. You don't. You don't. God bless them. You don't. And let me just say why. Let me say why you don't. Because all that's going to happen is they are going to drain you. Narcissists don't get tired. They don't. It's not in their makeup. I want everybody to research the definition and DSM description of a narcissist. Narcissists do not get tired. They feed off of the engagement. The engagement alone feeds the narcissism. So even if you like the debate, you could feel like you won the debate, but they won because they feed off of the fact that you debated. They feed off of the fact that you argued. They feed off the fact that they was able to trigger you or get to you or emotionally affect you. And the only way for you to survive a narcissist is to emotionally detach, which is still not for your wellness. So you don't. You don't. If you have a mother, a partner, or anybody in your life who is a narcissist, I'm sorry to tell you this, they will always win because the mere engagement alone is what feeds the narcissism. The fact that they are even still allowed to be in your life feeds the narcissism because in their mind, they receive that as you can't live without me, you need me. That's the grandiosity of the narcissism. They feed off of the fact that you are aware that they have something going on and that you don't leave them alone. They feed off of it. They benefit off of it, right? So you can't win. You can't deal with them. Only way you will be able to deal with them is accepting that they are going to deplete your energy and that you are going to feed their narcissism. So what you have to do is decide, do you want to still play the game? Do you still want to play the game? And if you are going to play the game, how are you going to balance their narcissism with your wellness? That's what you have to ask yourself. And that's a personal question that you have to answer for you. How much of the narcissism are you willing to deal with, right? So you can set up boundaries and restrictions. You know that, okay, I only have about this much tolerance for narcissism. These are the aspects of their narcissism that I'm willing to deal with and engage with. But once it gets to this point, I need to cut it off, or I need to let it go, or I need to, you can say that. So set your boundaries and your restrictions. Thank you so much, Shalondra, for the love offering. I appreciate the Cash App, Sister Queen. Okay, and Amina, thank you so much for the love offering. May it be abundantly returned unto you guys. I appreciate the love. But yes, set your boundaries and set your restrictions and take care of yourself because, again, they feed off of any little engagement. So you have to be mindful. Okay. You said, what chakra is connected to stage fright? It could be an abundance. It could be multiple different chakras depending on what is triggered. What is causing you to be frightened? What is causing you to be frightened? What is causing you to be frightened, right? Let me tell you something. A little stage fright is a good thing. Someone once said, and I'm saying someone because I can't remember. I've heard it from so many different people, so I can't remember who specifically started it or who specifically said it. But many people have said that nerves is a good thing. To be nervous means it's a sign that you care, right? Some of the greatest of greats, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Maya Angelou, Oprah, many people said that they still get nervous. Oprah actually said, I need to pray for Oprah, child. Why Oprah done been on my spirit? I talked about Oprah in the live earlier today. I need to pray for Oprah. Y'all pray for her. She done been on my spirit. But even she said that her number one question that guests ask her after the interview is, how did I do? Because everybody cares how did they do. Everybody cares, the perception and their impact. People care, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. But if your stage fright is triggered by a deep fear of not being enough, then that's a problem, right? Wanting to do well is different than feeling like you are enough, right? Not feeling like you're good enough, wanting to self-sabotage, feeling like you are unworthy. That's very different than really wanting to do well just because you want to put your best foot forward. You know you have the ability to, you know you are worthy, you know you are more than enough, and you want to show up as your best. That's a good thing. But if you have stage fright because you feel like you are unworthy, you feel like you are not enough, you don't feel like you're going to do a good job, and all of these negative self-talk, self-sabotaging ideas, then that is something that needs to be worked on. Oh, 333. Ashe. It was just the number of people on my end said 333. But yeah, and that could be centered in different chakras. More than likely, the root. The root is our confidence, our courage. That's a lot of Mars energy. Mars is all about drive and action. That's that confidence and courage in the root chakra, which I was telling the Wellness community the other day that when I might have been on YouTube when I was saying that. I was talking to the Wellness community. I'm pretty sure. Okay, I don't talk to y'all as often. So pretty sure I was talking to the Wellness community. But I was telling them that with the root chakra, you know that you struggle with confidence, with courage, with drive, with a positive outlook on life and self if that root is blocked. And you know that root is blocked if you have trouble with constipation. If you have trouble with bladder, right, with using the bathroom as a whole, if you don't go frequently enough, if you feel a lot of gas and experience a lot of gas in the stomach, it's because the gas is not passing, because essentially you're a tight ass. You're a tight ass. That root chakra is blocked, okay? And people who deal with a lot of anxiety and things like that, this is one of the reasons why a lot of people who deal with anxiety and things like that deal with irritable bowel syndrome. They deal with IBS for reasons like this. A lot of people who deal with low self-esteem and low confidence also, unfortunately, there's a correlation between that and Crohn's disease, right? So a lot of digestive issues, stomach issues, bowel issues, bladder issues, and issues relieving yourself as a whole, it's connected with having a blocked root chakra, okay? And again, that's all about a lack of confidence, a lack of courage, a lack of drive is in that root area. Also, the solar plexus, which is our emotion body. That is where we carry the energy of the emotion. And this is one of the reasons why I'm very mindful when people say, follow your gut, because your gut is your solar, which is your emotion body. If your gut is not healthy, if your solar is not balanced, your gut can tell you lies. Your gut can tell you stage fright. Your gut can tell you you are not enough. Your gut can tell you you are unworthy. If your gut is not balanced, if your solar is not balanced, so you will know the difference. If you are about to go on stage and you get a burning sensation instead of a butterfly sensation, then that means your gut is lying to you. If it feels a burn, if you feel a cramp, if you feel discomfort, butterflies are normal. Butterflies are good. That's just natural nerves. That's just natural care. But if you feel a burn, if you feel a cramping, that's a sign of low self-esteem. That's a sign of an overactive solar plexus, which leads to scattered emotions. It leads to anxiety, okay? An underactive solar plexus can look like emotional detachment. It can look like a lot of aloofness, melancholy, also depression. That's an underactive solar plexus, okay? So those are two areas where that stage fright could be stemming from. Again, nerves are good, but if the stage fright gets to the place where you are ready to self-sabotage because you feel unworthy, pay attention to that root in that solar. And again, I have a whole video on chakras as well, where I talk about blocked, balanced, and overactive chakras, how to identify each one, and also share some work and some tips on how to get it together. Okay, get them chakras together. All right, I'm scrolling down. I feel like I kind of answered this already. How do you regain your gift that they were praying away? This comes after I answer Sage's question. about the baptism. How do you regain your gift that they were praying away? I believe that's what happened to me. I used to see things in dreams and have deja vu episodes that I don't have anymore. So the same answer that I gave Lewis earlier, right, about essentially that spiritual bath, that cleansing, doing that foot wash, that road opener, and that head wash, and also doing your road opening workings even outside of yourself, including the candle workings and various other things, right, so that you can be able to cleanse off that energy and open yourself up to be able to connect with spirit again. Okay. Yes, a mojo bag in your wrap, honey. Okay. And listen, if you wear head wraps a lot, you should always keep a little something in there. Okay, for protection. Question. How do you find what works for you spiritually? I'm being pulled to things like numerology, astrology, and the connection to nature. That's excellent. They all had an impact on my life, but it's a lot of info. So Gary, that's excellent. You're being pulled to all of those things, astrology, numerology, as well as the connecting with nature. That's excellent. And those are all things that you absolutely 1000% should be pulled to. It is a lot of information out there. It could be very overwhelming. But I heavily advise continuing to study, but take your time, right? Something that's very important to me is focusing on one thing at a time. I do rabbit holes. I highly recommend rabbit holes because it gives you the opportunity to be focused on one thing, which stops you from being scattered and mixing up information, right? Because you're studying a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. And then sometimes that's how our paths and our information gets crossed. Honestly, I feel like that's what's happening to a lot of people with Christianity and hoodoo right now, which is why you have a lot of people making up these fake hoodoo rules because they're blending their Christianity and their hoodoo a bit too much and trying to bring some of that strict religion into a free-flowing practice. They're scattermind. They're scattered mind, baby. You got to focus. You got to focus, okay? Focus on one thing right now and rabbit hole it. Go down the deep rabbit holes of astrology. Go down the deep rabbit holes of numerology. Pick one. Go down the deep rabbit holes of studying nature and how the universe works, right? Watch the documentaries, read the books. Choose one, master it, and then move to the next, right? Choose one, master it, move to the next. And when I say master it, I'm talking about study and repetitive practice. Study, understand, and then practice your understanding to the point of mastery. That means you go back and you sharpen your sword. Okay, I tried to do this and I tried to assess this and I don't know. Let me go back and see. Let me go back to this book or let me go back to this documentary or let me cross-reference, right? Rabbit hole it. So that way you're not overwhelmed and also you're not mixing up information, especially when it comes to numerology and astrology. Okay, it can be very easy to kind of blend those two paths. This is the same thing with people who are studying like ATRs and Orishas in astrology at the same time. There's a lot of commonalities between astrology and ATRs and Orishas and Loals and different energies. There's a lot of commonalities, but I always say the Orishas have no zodiac sign. Right? The Orishas don't have a zodiac sign. That's not in alignment with the tradition of the ATR. It's not to say that there's not things in common, because there are, of course. And all things spiritual are aligned. All things spiritual have things in common, right? But it's important that we understand what is what and keep what separate, okay? So it's beautiful to study all and to master all and understand the divine connection in oneness of all, while also understanding each thing as its own individual thing. So study it individually and then connect it to the all, okay? Now let me see. Okay, you got a two-parter I see here. You said, thank you for this Q&A. You're welcome. Brief background info. This is about an older male friend who I've appreciated receiving knowledge about holistic wellness from. And then here's the part two. I felt divinely connected with him through our convos and personal signs. However, due to a couple things, I'm feeling unsettled, and it's in heavy review in my mind and spirit. Okay. Review it. Ain't nothing wrong with a little review. When I was a teacher in the classroom, we used to get reviews. Review these niggas. Review. Okay? I honestly feel like any type of friendship, relationship, student, mentor, any type of connection, we should do a review, do an annual evaluation, annual review. Are both of us living up to our roles, meeting the criteria? Or do somebody need to go on vacation and freshen up? Somebody might need to be laid off. Review. Okay? I got baptized like 20 years ago, went under the water, and don't remember nothing else after that. Let me tell you something. People think I'm playing. I'm gonna do a video about this on socials, and I'm always very mindful because there are a lot of Christian hoodoos and a lot of Christian root workers, and that's your business. You have the right to be that, right? Because again, our ancestors, many of them who were mainland, I'm not talking about Gullah Geechee Islands, because the islands were very different than people mainland. And if you want a deeper understanding of this wellness community, I always tell y'all this, and maybe we need to rewatch it again. I always tell people, watch Daughters of the Dust, which are about Gullah Geechee people on the islands. The islands was very different than mainland Gullah Geechee people. Mainland Gullah Geechee people and mainland people as a whole, people in the Delta, people in Louisiana Bayou, areas like that, they were more indoctrinated with Christianity than island Geechee people. They just were. And a lot of the fear of going mainland was that people were going to be indoctrinated. People were going to be colonized with that Christian religion. And a lot of the belief was that, and the understanding was that, exactly what I explained to y'all earlier, which is a fact. They are trying to rebuke the very thing that you are rooted in. Right? And this is why I said earlier, a lot of people now, because it's so popular to talk about hoodoo in the church, yes, there are hoodoo aspects in the church, but that does not mean your family was root workers or you came from the root. And the simple, quick assessment is, did your elders rebuke the very things that you are trying to do today? Some of y'all got elders who are rebuking you right now. You can't even tell your grandmama and your aunties and them what you doing because they're going to rebuke you. So you did not grow up hoodoo. You do not come from a hoodoo family. If your elders and ancestors was rebuking what you do, you did not grow up hoodoo, and that is okay. In Christianity, they are trying most often, they're trying to rebuke the practice that you are rooted in. A lot of people wonder why you don't feel your spiritual gift anymore, why you're not connected to your spiritual gift anymore. It's because, baby, when they dipped you in that water and they prayed over you, they rebuked the gift that you have. They prayed it away. They rebuked it and then bathed you and cleansed it off of you, cleansed your covering. They cleansed your root. Okay, so that's why a lot of people don't feel it anymore. And that's why a lot of people are disconnected. And it's okay if you want to incorporate your practice in your Christianity as one, but you do have to understand that a lot of your Christian practice is rebuking what you do with root. A lot of it. That church you going to, when they pray, they praying against you. I was watching, baby. And shout out to him, because y'all know, wellness community, y'all know, I still love me some good gospel music. I'll listen to some good gospel music. Again, I didn't grow up rooted in the church. I had a brief experience as a PK as a child where my mother tried the church. She became a licensed ordained minister, and then she left. Okay, so I had a very brief experience as a PK, but she left because she realized this ain't what we do, and this is not in alignment with me. So she left the church, okay? But I say that to say, what I realized, even present day, when I sometimes watch sermons on TV and watch stuff, I'm like, oh, I see people who grew up very Christian. I see why they struggle so much with deconstructing, because baby, them folks be harsh. Present day, they be harsh in that church. And it's still on YouTube right now. On Easter, I had put it in the Wellness Community chat. I was watching 2819 Church with, I think his name is Pastor Philip. Baby, watch his Easter service. That man threatened them folks so many times. If you don't accept Jesus, do not take the communion. If you are not a believer of Christ, do not take the communion, because you are smiting yourself to the judgment of Christ. If you do not accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, do not take the communion, because you are condemning the blood of Jesus, the judgment of Jesus over your life. I was like, nigga, we don't want the communion. Goddamn. They not gonna take I'm at home. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna take the fucking communion. Goddamn. Like, shit. Here go your wine, here go your bread. What the fuck? What do you want? He said that shit so many times that at first I was like, okay, I respect it. Okay. All right, I think they heard you. Oh, okay, yeah, no, they ain't gonna take, nigga, they not gonna take it. Goddamn. Goddamn. How many times you gotta tell them they're gonna be condemned and judged by Jesus if they sip that juice and eat that cracker? Goddamn, like the church today don't fuck with you root workers, okay? The church today, they rebuking you right now with your crystals and your sage. I see a sermon floating around on TikTok every 2 seconds where somebody is rebuking crystals and sage and herbs and witchcraft. They're rebuking you, okay? So if you are hoodoo or want to incorporate Christianity into your hoodoo, you have to understand what you are blending. And yes, you can strip away as much of the practice that doesn't fit you as you want to. But when you go to a church and get baptized, 9 times out of 10, you cannot control the prayer that they are going to pray over you. You can't control it. You can't script that pastor's prayer. So when you go to get baptized and that pastor is rebuking any spiritual gifts and any spiritual communication outside of Jesus Christ, then what? Then what? And then all of a sudden you can't dream no more. All of a sudden your spirit of discernment is gone. All of a sudden you can't connect to your ancestors no more. Your offerings is not being accepted. Then what? It's because you opened up your portal. You allowed yourself to stand in that water. You allowed that prayer of rebuking to enter your portal. And that's what you wanted. And your ancestors is going to align with what you want. Okay, cool. So that's why I said, if you choose to do it, you need to be saying your own private prayer. I'm not saying don't go get baptized in the church. I'm not saying that at all. But you have to say your own private prayer. You need to do your own personal things for protection as well. Okay, it's important to note that. Okay, but again, this comes with being honest with self. I feel like right now, we are in a space where everybody wants to be hoodoo, that they are being dishonest about the truth of their practice and the truth of their family history. Some of y'all, your big mama prayed that gift away from you because your big mama said that gift was the devil. Some of y'all, your mama, your daddy, your auntie, they praying against you right now because they think what you're doing is the devil, right? It's demonic. So those are things that you just have to be aware of. And again, you got to do your work to protect yourself and, be mindful of that. Y'all, a lot of people, I can't tell you how often I hear people having to hide ancestor altars and stuff like that. Let's not pretend. Let's not pretend your family is deep in the root. They not. When I go to your mama's house, she got a picture of white Jesus hanging on her wall and a cross. They're not. They're not. Okay? And that's okay. You just got to know how to handle that energy. And you got to know how to handle when y'all sitting around in that prayer circle and they rebuking you subconsciously and consciously, you got to be saying your own prayer, which I say my own private prayer anyway. I don't care who I'm praying with. I'm always praying my own little personal prayer of protection. Always, 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 always pray your own little personal prayer of protection. Okay. You said, I'm seeing 2 things. You said, I'm sitting in my room and thought due to him. Oh, this was the other part. Oh, you got a 4-part question. Baby, you monopolizing. Let me just get straight to the question. Can he interfere and send signs that I may dream as us being divinely connected, but it's in fact clouding my judgment? Okay. So essentially, this is the continuation, y'all, from the post that she put earlier. So essentially what I'm understanding is that you were connected to this guy, and right now, summing it up, you feel like it's possible that he may be intervening in your healing process, including your thoughts and things like that, right? Dreams, etc. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible for somebody to be able to do that. How would you know if somebody is doing that? It's going to take a lot of self-assessment and honesty and accountability. You have to be honest with yourself and accountable with yourself, right? Is it him or is it you? Is it him or is it you? if you are not connected to a person and you do not care about a person, but they keep popping up in your dreams and they keep showing up in different ways, then that's likely a sign that it's something that they are doing. But if you still feel a deep emotional connection and you still feel deeply attached to them, that's something that you are doing, right? Because you're still spiritually and mentally and emotionally connected to them. You would need to cut those ties, and you can do that through a cord cutting ceremony. You can do that through an egg bath. I also recommend a black walnut bath. It's very good for that as well. Do that one first. Do a black walnut bath, and you want to take the hulls of the walnuts, okay, and you want to put them in your bath water with some coconut and some bay leaf and a sprinkle of sea salt, and you want to soak your entire body, crown to roots, in that water. And as you are doing that, you are setting your intentions to release and remove any unhealthy connection and any unhealthy relationships that are not aligned with your wellness. Now, warning, 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 more than him may go. More than him may go. So you got to know that. More than him may go. But that black walnut bath will help cut that, okay? So you should do that, and then you assess to see. Okay, because it may not be something that he's doing. It's just a natural connection that has happened, and there's still residual feelings on your behalf that's calling his energy to you. Okay, but the black walnut bath will cut it either way. Okay, so those are two options. Okay, and you could do the egg wash before you do the black walnut bath, and you do that by simply taking a fresh egg, you warm it a little bit, and you rub yourself down with the egg from crown to roots, and then you will crack the egg in a clean glass of water. Okay, you can also put a little sprinkle of salt in the water, but you can also just do pure water, and you will see how the egg spreads. Give it a minute and see how the egg looks. If the egg webs, like meaning that the egg white, or first off, if the yolk busts, it's a problem. But if the egg spreads as a whole and it almost looks like a web or like cobwebs in the water, that's a sign that something was done. If it settles, that means that nothing was done to you. It's just the natural love connection that you have to heal from. Okay? Let me see. Yes, said apparently my great great grandmother was a lechuza, a bird shapeshifter. Is that a blessing, more of a curse? Is that a blessing? So she was a bird shapeshifter. Is that a blessing or more of a curse? I'm not familiar with bird shapeshifters. I'm not familiar with that, so I can't answer that question. It's not my ministry, but I'm gonna research it. I'm gonna study it. I don't know. Okay. It's kind of like whatever you believe in will apply and work for you. It'll work if you believe it. Ashe. Let me go for some more questions. But question, if you know better, shouldn't you do better? Always. If you know better, you should do better. I always say, to me, that's the definition of stupidity for me, is knowing better and consciously choosing not to do better. That's the definition of stupidity for me. Knowing better and consciously choosing not to do better. Blessings. I lost my mother last month. My condolences to the transition of your mom, and may her energy be elevated and her transition be well and easy. Okay? Ashe. Blessings. I lost my mother last month. How long would you wait to add her to an ancestor altar? If she transitioned last month, you can do a 9-day welcoming ceremony where you cleanse the energy and welcome her in over a 9-day period, and welcome her in. She's ready. She's ready. Okay, after a month. But also different traditions have different practices. Some ATRs, you got to wait 3 months. Some ATRs, they make you wait a full year. Some traditions, you do it immediately, as soon as a person transitions, because we believe in lighting the path. So when somebody transitions in traditional hoodoo or root work, you would you light a candle for them to light their path and make their transition easy. So we immediately get to working. Okay, and then you do a 9-day ritual to kind of help usher them in. Okay, and you can welcome them if they are ready, when they are ready. So that is normally how that would work. Okay. You said gotta detach from those who are negative in general. Ashe. Let me see. Sage has another question. What is your opinion on folks that have experienced hell in NDEs or have had spirit attacks in Jesus' name worked. Okay. In Jesus' name work. How do you explain to them that all of that is just personal and not the only truth? That is a good question. So essentially what I'm grasping is you're talking about people who have been through some things, dealing with like root work and like people doing things to them or whatever, and they have turned to Jesus, and they are essentially like maybe rebuking that or against that because of their own personal experience, right? You said, how do you explain to them that that is all just personal and not the only truth, right? In spirit check, in Jesus' name work. Yeah, that's what I'm grasping. That's my understanding of your question. Now, this is the thing. Some people are stuck in their belief, right? So before you try to teach them anything or share anything with them, you need to assess, are they open to having a conversation? Some people are just not open to having a conversation, right? I know people who are very Christian who are open, right? And when I say open, it means that they believe what they believe for them, but they are also open to understanding your understanding. You can have a conversation with them, but there are some people who are so stuck and so set in their belief that there is no conversation to be had. They believe what they believe, and that's it. You can't tell them anything, okay? And those are the people that it's not worth explaining to. One thing about being on a spiritual journey, being a spiritual person who you're not a part of the traditional mainstream religion of the world, which in our case in America is Christianity. One thing you have to do is learn to accept that a lot of people won't understand you and a lot of people won't accept you. And that's okay, including people in your own family and friend group, right? Like they believe what they believe and they won't accept anything else, and they are not comfortable with anything else, right? So if they are open to having the conversation, definitely have the conversation with them. Definitely talk to them, definitely honor them, right? And have the conversation of understanding. And you'll know that based on what type of conversations they engage in and how they talk about other spiritual practices. Like I was saying earlier, if you know that you say at your Thanksgiving table, if you bring up crystals, how is your family going to respond? If you come to Thanksgiving dinner with a crystal hanging from a necklace, how is your family going to act? The people who immediately go into, no, I rebuke it. You know that it ain't gonna be too much conversation and trying to teach them that that's not the only truth. But if you have somebody in your family who's asking questions like, well, what is that? Well, why are you wearing that? How did you get into that? Right? Those are the people you can have conversations with, and you can be able to talk to them and share with them. You just have to decide if you are you going to accept people for who they are, right? And move forward in that way. Okay, this was your follow-up. You said, how do you explain why magic works to Christians, like doing a candle work, and when they say all you have to do is pray or plead the blood of Jesus? So I would explain to them that what they do is magic too, right? That's simply the conversation I would have, is helping them to understand that what they do is considered magic too. And then that's when I go to intellect as opposed to just spirituality. That's when we start looking up the definitions. Let's look up the definition of ritual. Let's look up the definition of magic. Let's look up the definition of communion. Let's look up the definition of these things, of sacrifice, of sacrament. Sacrament, which is another name for communion, when you look up the definition, it literally says ritual, right? So you guys have rituals. You guys do magic. You guys do believe in spirit because y'all believe in the Holy Spirit, right? So that's when you help them to understand the magic in their own practice, the magic in their own work, right? I don't try to project my understanding. I help them get a deeper understanding of what they do and understand what they do from a different perspective. And the way that they can accept that what they do is okay based on what they accept to be the truth, that's how I help them understand, well, this is my understanding and this is what I accept to be the truth. Now, where we gonna go? Where we gonna go? We both practice in magic. We're both practicing candle work, and then that's when you got to teach them about Catholicism. Again, bring it to the education, bring it to the intellect. A part of before you even say, ask them, how do they feel about Catholics? How do you feel about Catholics? Do you accept Catholics as a form of Christianity? Do you accept Catholicism as a form of Christianity? That's when you got to pull up the videos to educate them. Well, in the Catholic Church, they burn frankincense and myrrh. They smudge too. They practice candle working too. They venerate ancestors. They got photos on their stained glass windows of Mother Mary and ancestors. Mother Mary was not Jesus. She's an ancestor, but she's venerated in the church. When they're talking about saint this and saint that and saint, these are all people who transitioned and they're honoring them as saints. That's ancestor veneration. So again, you get them to see the magic in their own practice, right? And once you help them understand that, usually the work does itself. The work usually does itself after that. Usually, because I'm gonna tell you, this is what the next thing they're gonna say. Well, that's holy. Well, yes, we believe in spirit, but we believe in the Holy Spirit. And that's when you got to say holy to you. Holy to you. To you. And that is okay. That is okay. This is the key thing when you're having these types of conversations. It's not about making them think that what they do is wrong. And that's where a lot of people make a mistake. When they're going back and forth with their Christian family members, you trying to convince them that what they do is evil and Christianity is the white man's religion. And you try to, not saying you, Sage, but people, they try to demean them for practicing Christianity. I don't demean anybody for practicing Christianity. If that's what you do, I respect it and I honor it. But let's really get to the truth of what it is, of what's going on here. Come on, Holy Spirit. Come on, Holy Ghost. I believe in the Holy Ghost. I also believe in other ghosts. I believe in the Holy Spirit. I also believe in other spirits. I believe in the saints and venerating the ancestor saints. I also believe in venerating other ancestors. So it's nothing wrong with what you believe, and it's also nothing wrong with what I believe, because we believe in the same thing. Right? So that's where how I like to have the conversation, and what has always worked for me. Right? I just talked about this with Aries. I'm about to say I just talked about this with somebody. It was you. I have serious itchiness going on with hives. Is this a spiritual attack? It could be. So as we talked about, itching, feeling the itching all over your body could be a sign of spiritual communication, right? Hives is a sign of spiritual attack. If it's getting to the point of hives, that's a problem. But you will know if it's spiritual based on how you experience the itching. So here's the thing. If it's surface level itching, right, like literally the top of your skin is itching, it almost feels like something is crawling on top of you, then that could be a sign that it could be an allergic reaction to something around you, your detergent, something like that could be going on. But if you feel like something is crawling under your skin, right, you almost like that feeling where it almost gives you chills. It's like an icky feeling. It's happening underneath the skin. It could either be blood circulation or it could be a spiritual communication. If it's getting to the point of hives or webs, it could be a spiritual attack, and that's when a cleansing needs to be done. So itching is a sign of spiritual communication if you're feeling it beneath the skin, right? If it's feeling like a deep itching, it's beneath the skin, right? But if it's a surface level itching, then that's a sign of usually like something external going on. If it's leading to hives or webs or something like that, it's a sign of spiritual attack, and a cleansing needs to be done. Okay. Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, Sydney said, Queen, I recently adapted this weird ass Claire. Why I was about to say this weird class of Claires. What am I reading? Let me get some water. That was my lemon water, child. Shocked myself. I got two there. I got a regular water and a lemon water. Shocked myself, huh? Got the lemon water instead of the regular water. You gotta be prepared for that lemon. I got a lemon and a pinch of ginger juice in there. A pinch of ginger and some lemon and water. It's really, really good. But it's gonna open you up. You probably see my eyes water a little bit. See my nose turn red. It's no game, but it's good to cleanse you out and open you up. Queen, I recently adapted this weird ass Claire. I get random whiffs of smells that do not make sense, like bubblegum or blood or smoke, and I don't know why it's happening or what it means for me. It may not mean something for you. It may mean something to the spirit that's trying to communicate with you. So sometimes when a spirit is trying to communicate with you and they're trying to give you a message about something, they'll give you the sense or even the feeling sometime of what they experienced. So in the case of blood especially, they may be trying to tell you how they passed, right? So pay attention to the feeling that you get in your body along with that blood smell, because they may be trying to give you a sign of how they transitioned, what led to them transitioning, right? If it's a case or a bubble gum or something like that, it could be a child spirit trying to communicate with you, right? So somebody who just really enjoyed bubblegum, and the same thing with the smoke. Okay, so that's not a weird clear, that's one of the clairs, right? So as I told y'all, in the wellness community, Sydney is in the wellness community, there are many, many different clairs. I think there's like over 20 something. They break them all the way. They all have different names. They even break them down to like movement, and eye twitching is a separate clair that they have now named. Taste has its own name. Scent has its own name. So like I said, my video, I do the overall 4 because I classify all of that as feeling. I classify taste and all of that as clairsentience, right? But people have subcategorized the 4 clairs into smaller clairs, right? And again, it's just all centered in spiritual communication, but you just have to pay attention to what the spirit is trying to tell you. It could either be the type of spirit it is, how they transitioned, or something that they really enjoyed, trying to give you a hint of who they are. Okay. You said Valeria. Uh-oh. Child, let me scroll down. I'm about to mess up the thing. Hold on. You said valerian root. Yes, valerian root is a good herb. It's a funky herb, but it's a good herb that helps to calm the body, helps you sleep, and do a variety of things. It's a funky herb. It smells like boo-boo. It really does. It also can be used for protection as well. Like you could sprinkle around your house, like the threshold outside of your house, but it smells so bad. Good valerian root stinks. It smells like horse manure, literally. Okay, so yeah, I would recommend the capsules if you can. Okay, recommend capsules, highly recommend the capsules. Are you familiar with aura? I was told that I should work on feeling my aura, then I'll be able to work on clearing my throat chakra. How does one clear their throat chakra? I have a whole video on chakras where I break down the active versus overactive versus balanced aspects of a chakra and signs of where you are with each chakra, and also how to open up and balance each chakra. Now, when it comes to the aura, your aura is your energy field, right? A lot of people use the term aura, which is more than okay, but your aura is your energy field. It is believed that your energy can resonate 6 feet outside of your body. This is one of the reasons why Erykah Badu has a dope song called 6 Feet Tall. Go listen to that song. One of my favorite Erykah Badu songs, which I have a list. Okay, I have a list. Don't get me started on Badu. I got a list, okay? But 6 feet tall is one of my favorites, right? But your energy field, your aura stretches. That's your aura, is your energy field, stretches 6 feet outside of your physical body. People within 6 feet, you know how people say, give me my personal space, give me my personal space. That's your aura. Get out of my energy field, right? Now, so that's how, keep in mind, side note, that's how easy it is to exchange energy with somebody. Somebody can be within 6 feet of you and exchange energy. A lot of people think that somebody only has to physically touch you to exchange energy. If somebody is in your energy field, they can exchange energy with you. So that's something to be mindful of, and why you have to mind your circle, right? Now, when it comes to them telling you you need to feel your aura, feeling your aura is essentially feeling your energy field. I'm feeling like, and you would have to ask them what they meant when they said it. That's not something I would say to somebody, but to me, it sounds like if they're telling you to feel your aura, they may be telling you you need to mind your energy field. You need to mind the energy that you are projecting and be aware of the energy that you are projecting, because maybe they may have experienced that energy, and something about your energy is telling them that you have a blocked throat chakra. I'm gonna be honest with you. It sounds like what they're trying to say is that you be talking crazy. Okay, and you are putting out a certain energy when you be speaking, and your energy field based in alignment with your words ain't well, right? Because if they could say, and you need to feel your aura and then work on your throat chakra, you might be a little slick, a little sharp at the mouth, and they're telling you to work on it. Be aware Okay, so you might need to be aware of that, and that is okay. All right. Now, there are multitude of things. Like I said, I have a whole video on chakras. I'll just say quickly, a good crystal for it is lapis lazuli. You can also use some oil of oregano. Oregano is a good herb. Eucalyptus is also a good herb. Any type of mint is a good herb. But oil of oregano is really going to be one of the best. Oil of oregano will help you speak healing words, speak kindness, and speak love. So you can do you can make a little dropper, a little droplet, with some water, oil of oregano, and honey, and put that in a little bottle and just drop a couple drops under the tongue. You can also just drink some water and put a couple of drops of oil of oregano in the water along with some honey. The honey is going to sweeten your tongue and help open up that throat chakra, balance it out, and help you speak words of love and kindness. Okay, so just kind of help you mind the mouth, open up the throat, and kind of balance that energy out. Okay, it's also going to cool that throat as well. And cooling the throat means that you are not as spicy. Okay, you are not as hot with those words. Okay, helps cool the throat, and again, aligning you with that ori. That the eucalyptus will help with that. The mint as a whole will help with that. Okay, so you can do that. And then if you're going to use water, use the coconut water, because that will help align with that ori energy as well. Okay. Let me see. I'm scrolling down. You're welcome. Hey, Kat. Kat said, hello, Queen. First off, thank you for your wisdom. You've been a huge part of my wellness journey. Thank you so much, and I'm grateful to be a part of your journey. Much love and much wellness to you. Do you have any experience or knowledge on Moldavite? Yes, Moldavite is essentially, the whole goal of Moldavite is to help you do deep, deep shadow work by unearthing hidden emotions and hidden truths, right? But the thing about Moldavite is super duper powerful. And if you do not know how to transmute energy, if you do not know how to do that deep work, it can be a bit scary, because the emotions that will come up, those hidden truths will come up. And for a lot of people, it can be very, very scary to work with Moldavite, because those emotions will come up and literally scare you. So that's why there's a lot of fear when it comes to Moldavite for a lot of people, because people have very visceral reactions to it. And it's not them having reactions to the Moldavite, it's them having reactions to the emotions that get unearthed as a result to the Moldavite, with the Moldavite, or for the Moldavite rather. I don't know, but that's what it is. So I would definitely advise, if you are going to start working with Moldavite, you need to study alchemy. You need to study how to transmute energy, right? How to shift energy, okay? So, and then that's where also your black obsidian would be good, your black tourmaline would be good, right? Like having these crystals that can help balance your emotions, as well as help you transmute that energy, that would be good as well, okay? Onyx can also be good for that as well, that emotional balance, and helping you deal with also protection, helping you deal with that energy, okay? So couple it with other crystals, or pair with other crystals, that's going to help you do the work to deal with the emotions that come from that Moldavite. Okay, now let me see, I'm scrolling down. You said, hi, Queen Poe. Hey, I want to know more about spiritual orbs. I've seen an orb for the first time in one of my YouTube videos after dreaming about my late brother the same day. So an orb is just a sign that a spirit is present around you, right? So an orb oftentimes can appear as like a little fog, or like a little puff of smoke almost, it'll look like, around you. Sometimes orbs can also appear as little balls of light, little balls of color around you as well. All of these are considered orbs, and it's just a sign that the spiritual energy is around you. So whenever you see an orb, you really just want to take a moment and connect with your ori, connect with your spirit of discernment, and assess the energy of the space. Do you feel like there's energy in the room around you? Do you feel like a spirit is present around you? And mind it, and then decide what you want to do. Do you want to work on it? Do you want to work with it? Well, you know, what you want to do with it? You know, that's up to you after that, okay? And much peace to the journey of your brother and his transition, okay? Much love, much love. V Conley. Hey, V Conley, you said just started following you after your sinners review. Thank you. What color should someone avoid when creating their altar? That's a good question. The go-to color for altar work is always white, right? And this is the thing, like colors you should avoid. There's not necessarily colors that need to be avoided because every color has their intention. But I will definitely say, if you are just starting an altar, you want to start with the color of clarity, which is white, the color of connection, which is white, right? So start with white, and then if you feel drawn to add other colors or add other things that are in alignment with different colors, you can definitely do that. But be intentional, be super intentional and super clear about why you are adding it, right? Different colors have different meanings in different cultures. I was just reading, speaking of sinners, a Chinese person had commented on my video, and she said that the color red in Chinese culture represents death. Right? The color red represents death for them. So she said, she was mentioning something like when they wrote the sign for the juke joint, they wrote it in red, which was them. She said it was what brought the death energy from the Chinese culture, right? They kind of cursed themselves when they did that. I didn't know that. I thought that the color red represented luck because of the Lunar New Year. They passed the red envelopes. I didn't know that, right? So again, and again, that's in Chinese culture. From her perspective, that's what she said in a comment. So again, every culture has different meanings for different colors. You need to be intentional about why you are adding that color. So start with white, and if you feel led to add other colors, just set your intention for that color before you add it. Okay. And as you know, within ATRs, different orishas and different energies are represented by different colors as well. So again, in every culture, it is different. Okay. Okay, I'm scrolling down. Okay, I think I might have answered everything. I'm scrolling. I'm seeing a lot of y'all responses to my other answers. Do I have any favorite books on astrology? No, I don't have any favorite books on astrology. There's a lot of astrology information out here. I would definitely say study the foundation, but connect with your spirit to get your own understanding, right? And you do that by really, I was just telling the wellness community, the website I like to use to track the planetary alignment is called theplanettoday.com. Theplanettoday.com. That's the website that I like to use to track the planetary alignment. They offer it in tropical as well as in sidereal or Vedic, also known as Vedic. They offer both options, and I like to just every day I just check it just to see what's the alignment for today. But get your own understanding of the spiritual meaning and spiritual connection of each planet, and then get your own understanding of the signs, the different signs, and how they work. And how they impact energy, and what does it mean for that planet to be in that sign for you, right? And how does it connect with you based on your own chart, right? How does it impact you based on your own chart? So you can do a collective understanding of how would it impact the collective by understanding the planet in that sign, in that degree, and in that house as well, if you want another layer, right? So you can do your own understanding for the collective, but then also how does it impact you based on your chart, right? And to think about understanding how to do natal chart readings is you can practice on yourself by reading your own chart in connection to how the planets are aligned today. You can do that daily. Right? Read your own chart in alignment with the planetary alignment today, right? Understanding squares, trines, sextiles, oppositions, what brings harmony, what brings challenges. If it brings challenges, what types of challenge? What house is that planet in, right? Or for you, like how does it show up for you? What degree? And how does that impact you? What does that mean in that house, right? So that's like an overall. Studying astrology takes some time, which is why I told the person earlier to go down the rabbit hole, focus on one thing. Because studying astrology is a lot of work, right? Because there's so many different layers, and there's also different formats of astrology, right? As I mentioned in a previous video, tropical astrology is Western astrology. Then you have sidereal or Vedic, which is Eastern astrology, right? So you can study both of those, but those are only the most popular two. There are other forms of astrology and other forms of understanding the planetary alignment, right? So again, a lot of rabbit holes that you can go down with astrology. I don't have a favorite book, but I'll say this is one of the ways that I started. I just started reading everything on the internet, reading everything in books, as many books as I can, and I was cross-referencing. I always advise people to do this. I'm very big on this. Always go to the works cited of a source. And maybe I got that from college, right? I got that from school. We always had to go to a works cited, and we always, whenever we read articles, we always had to check the works cited. And a great way to get other resources for your paper was to go to the resources in the works cited of the article that you just did or just read. So that's how I get a lot of my information and get new resources, is I'll read something on astrology or read a book about astrology, and then I'm going to the works cited. I'm going to the bibliography of that book or of that paper or whatever, and then I'm going to read that stuff, right? So it's the resources are infinite. The resources are infinite. You just have to take your time and be patient and be focused on what you are studying. Let me see. I think I'm at the bottom. Let me see. What do you suggest spiritually? Hold on. What do you suggest spiritually for a group of people trying to come up against you? For a group? Oh, I thought I was at the bottom. I'm not nowhere near the bottom. The curse, I thought I was at the bottom of the little cursor thing, the little scroll thing on the side. When I made it to the bottom, it shrunk and ran right back up. So I thought I was at the bottom. They said, girl, no. Okay. What do you suggest spiritually for a group of people trying to come up against you? A group of people? A whole cohort? What Darcel said, a legion of demons? Lord, a group of people trying to come against you for what? And come against you how? What, they want to fight? They want to jump you? What they trying to do to you, girl? Huh? Spiritually attack you? You just got to do your protection work. Do your protection work. Honestly, seriously, that's what you need to do. The thing about doing your protection work is it protects you from individuals as well as groups, communities, a whole heap. It protects you regardless, right? So do your protection work. Make sure that you are taking your spiritual baths. Make sure you are covering yourself. You're protecting yourself. Make sure that you are covering your crown if needed. If you feel like you are under spiritual attack, your crown should be covered at all times, right? If you feel like you are encountering people who don't mean you well, you should be taking a spiritual bath or a spiritual shower every single day when you come home, right? You should be setting your intentions and praying over yourself. You should be smudging yourself. Now, everybody should be doing that anyway. Everybody should at least be smudging themselves down every single day, at least the bare minimum you could do. It takes 2 seconds to smudge yourself down every day. Okay, everybody should be doing that. But do your protection work. And when you do your protection work and you cover yourself, you are essentially building your fortress or your fence around yourself. So nothing or no one can penetrate it, whether if it's an individual or a group of people. Okay. Now let me see. I'm scrolling. Are you familiar with the soul star chakra? My understanding is the chakra is connected to your soul's purpose. Can you do a video on that also? Also a video explaining how to read Akashic records. I don't know how to read Akashic records. I don't know how to do that. I can do a video on the soul star chakra. I can do that. It'll be a quick TikTok video. I won't do like a long form on YouTube, but I only save YouTube for my long form content. I'm not even a fan of doing like YouTube shorts because I'm a person, the wellness community knows this. Even in the Patreon, I don't really like posting what I put on social media in the Patreon. I'm a person where get the short form stuff on TikTok and Instagram. Get the long form stuff like my longer versions and more detailed information about the planetary alignment on YouTube, right? And videos like this on YouTube. And then for personal long form stuff, that's where the wellness community comes in, where we do our book clubs, our family meetings, we do our Q&A sessions, we do our Sunday film watch parties, we do all of that stuff, right, in the wellness community. I can do a short video, but it won't be here on YouTube. That would be on my social, so you'll have to be on TikTok or Instagram to see that. But I'll do a short video on the soul star chakra. And then as far as Akashic records, like I said, I don't read Akashic records. Okay, that is something I started studying to understand, I want to say about 2 or 3 years ago, but I don't read Akashic records, and I don't know anybody personally who is good at it. I know people who dabble in it, but I don't know anybody who's like, I would say, oh, they've mastered Akashic records. I don't know. Do you have advice for how to manage relationships with people who don't want to do the work when you're deep in it? Oh, that's a good question. Being in relationships with people who don't want to do the work. I just listen. I just listen. A hard lesson I had to learn is that everybody don't want to grow. Everybody don't want to do the work. Everybody don't want to change and shift and thrive. Some people are comfortable in their trauma. They're comfortable being in drama. They're comfortable being in depression. They're comfortable being in misery. Some people are comfortable there. They have made a home there and they don't want to move. And I had to learn that. I had someone tell me one day, many years ago when I was in college, okay? Child said, I know I'm getting a little older, honey. I'm in my 30s, okay? I know I'm getting a little older because now college was over a decade ago. Oh, well over a decade ago, okay? Me and my friends from college, we'd be like, whoo, Lord, we met up, what, 15, 16, 17 years ago? So I know I'm getting a little older. Huh? So many years ago, about 15, 16 years ago, when I was in college, I was on the phone with a older person. It was a parent, okay? It was a parent, not my father. Well, this community, if you know, you know. But she said she was complaining. And I gave some advice, and she said, don't nobody want to hear all that positive shit all the time. I said, oh, don't nobody want to hear that positive shit all the time. Oh. Well, excuse the fuck out of me. I don't what you want to hear. I don't what you want me to say. Yeah, it's terrible. Like, what you want me to say? I didn't even know how to respond to that. But it was a good learning lesson because she was right. Everybody don't want to be healed. Everybody don't want to be better. Everybody don't want to learn. You got to just let some people be comfortable. So then when you realize that a person is that way, when you realize that a person is comfortable where they are, you then have to ask yourself, well, what are you going to do with that energy? Are you going to battle them? Are you going to go back and forth? No, because they're comfortable. So you're just wasting your energy. Do you want to cut them off? There's people you love. So you don't want to cut everybody off who ain't doing what you're doing and who ain't willing to grow and da-da-da. So if you still want to be in relationship, you still want to be in community with those people who are comfortable in their mess, you have to learn how to just shut up and listen and say, ooh, wow. Oh, that's crazy. Unfortunate. Oh, wow. Yikes. Damn. That's it. That's the conversation. I don't offer no advice. I don't offer no solutions. I just, ooh, yikes. Tragic. Diabolical. Damn. I'm sorry you had to experience that, girl. That's it. That's all I give. Very affirming. Very validating. Okay? And then I move forward because they're comfortable there. What you want me to do? Don't waste your energy trying to change nobody and fix nobody. Well, I think it was J. Cole who said, don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Hello? That was a word. That was a scripture. Galatians 33:4. Written by Prophetess Cole. Don't save her. She don't want to be saved. Okay. Let me scroll down. Do you always have to do a spiritual bath or cleanse before a foot wash? Yes. And a head wash as well. Or could it be done independently? No. Cleanse yourself. Cleanse your whole body. Okay. You do need to cleanse yourself. That's important. You said, question. Does a narcissist hold narcissistic energy, after they transition this world, or does the narcissist energy get passed to a host? That's a good question. So The answer to that question is it is possible for energy to be cleansed, right? So all ancestors do not stay the same when they cross over into spirit realm. A lot of them change. A lot of them have a shift in energy, right? Because they can see beyond the physical. So they get almost like a all-seeing eye in a sense, right? So a lot of them change. A lot of them have regret and experience regret. And they will shift in their energy and usually want to do the work to repair what they may have done in the physical form. Now, when it comes to the narcissistic energy, it's possible for the narcissistic energy to go with them. It is also possible for it to be passed to someone else, right? So this is one of the reasons, you know what's funny? In old Hoodoo, Gullah Geechee culture, root working culture, when you would go to a funeral, they would either pass the like children over the casket or under the casket, depending on if they wanted the children to take on the energy of the deceased person, of the person who had transitioned. So that was an old tradition that used to happen, right? And a lot of people kind of put their own spin on it. In other cultures, I think Delta people do it as well. Other people do it, you know, but and everybody does it a little bit differently, right? That's why the regions are important and understanding the geographical locations are important. Everybody does it a little differently, but that was the old tradition specifically for that reason. If you don't want that energy of that person to pass on to a child, you'll pass them by the casket so they don't get that energy. Or you could pass them and hold them over the body so they could get that energy. Okay. Let me scroll on down. Scroll on down, that's a fact. No Orishas. In Hoodoo, there are no Orishas. In Hoodoo, there are no Orishas. In Hoodoo, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's people just blending practices, you know, and putting three things together that don't go together. Not that they don't go together, they complement each other, but they don't go together. They're not all one thing, you know. I'm attending my cousin's funeral soon. Disruption has already ensued. What herbs or crystals would you suggest for my mojo bag? Anything that's aligned with protection. And it depends on the energy, not the energy, but the intentions that you have. Anything that's aligned with protection, that's aligned with, depending on what your intentions are. You may want to mind your mouth. You may want to mind your thoughts, right? So it just depends on what your energy are. I have or your desires are, I should say. What are your intentions when you are going? What do you feel like you need to be mindful of? And then you get herbs and crystals that's in alignment with that. Okay, so every mojo bag is different. It's just all about what is your intention. It's not dependent upon where you're going. It's dependent upon what are you doing when you get there and what is the energy that you want to align with when you are in that space. Okay, I'm only gonna answer a couple more questions, y'all. It's after midnight. It's after midi, so I'm gonna answer a couple more. Do you believe it's appropriate to venerate transition pets? Yes, a lot of people honor their transition pets because it's energy. It's energy, right? Energy that was in a pet's body. We're spirit beings born into the human experience. They're spirit beings born into the whatever animal they were experienced. So it's still a spirit being energy. Or is another altar needed? Should you put them on an ancestor altar, or is there another altar needed? Or is there a way to communicate with them? Yes, the pets come through in the midst of mediumship. So yes, it's a way to communicate with them. I would say create their own little separate sacred space for them. A lot of people do add them to their ancestor altar. If you feel led to, that's your business, but you can create your own separate space for them. It's not a bad thing to put them on your ancestor altar, okay? But again, I understand why some people wouldn't want to do that. That's your business. But you know, you can create a little sacred altar space for them if you want to. Okay, how can you know the difference between your growth zone versus pain zone when doing body work? And what's self-sabotage versus intuition? So growth zone versus pain zone when you are doing body work. It depends on the type of body work you're doing. Are you doing reflexology? Are you doing spiritual body work? Different aspects of the body, right? So your growth zone and your pain zone can be different depending on what aspects of the body, right? Because we know there's a energy portal called the pain body. right? So again, it depends. When you say body, like what do you mean by body work? There's different types of body work. There's different types of bodies that you can work with, right? So what specifically do you mean by body work? Growth versus pain is very, very clear in understanding that the only way you will confuse the two is if you don't have knowledge of self. Is it elevating you? If it's elevating you, it's growing you. That's a growth zone. And yes, the growth doesn't always look pretty or feel pretty, but you don't want to self-sabotage yourself out of it, right? So that's when, because your second question is what self-sabotage versus intuition. Your intuition comes from a divine place. Your intuition is not coupled with fear. If there's fear, that's anxiety. Okay, if you're afraid and you're anxious and if it's based on what could possibly happen, that's anxiety. If it's based on past traumatic experiences, that's depression. If you find, and I have a whole video on this about ego versus intuition, ego versus the spirit. Go just type the Queen Poe ego on YouTube and you'll be able to see and watch that full video on how you differentiate the ego versus spirit speaking to you. How do you know if it's the ego trying to self-sabotage you versus the spirit trying to self-sabotage you? And you will know it's spirit because it's pure. It's pure. There's not fear that's coming with it. There's not past thoughts of trauma and what ifs coming with it. None of that is coming with it. You just have a divine knowing that this is what you should do. It's just a divine knowing that this is the path for me. And you can't even really explain it. If you can explain why you're not because of a fear, or you can explain why you're not because of past trauma, that's the ego, that's self-sabotage, right? And that's coming from a space of pain, right? So again, connecting it back to the growth zone versus the pain zone. The pain zone is usually associated with thoughts of past trauma or anxious thoughts of what could possibly happen in the future that you don't want. That's associated with the pain zone. Okay, so in the growth zone, it's just that divine knowing that something is happening. You may not know what it is, you may not know why it is, but it's just the divine knowing. But that's what you want to be aligned with. Okay, let me see. I'm scrolling down. I'm seeing a lot of y'all reactions. Somebody said, close the door. Marvin Sapp ain't gonna live that down, but he took it a little too far. Y'all saw he tried to create the song, Close the Door. He tried to do him a little R&B song. I need pastors and preachers to stay away from the R&B. Marvin Sapp, T.D. Jakes, we don't want to hear y'all love making music. Did y'all see John Gray? Shout out to John Gray. He was actually at Tina Knowles' book tour stop yesterday, and he was talking about how he likes to drink his wife. He said, when I'm hungry, I eat her. That's how he looked for it. He said, when I'm hungry, I eat her. And when I'm thirsty, I drink her. And he said, I said, John, keep it. Keep it, Pastor. No, thank you, Pastor. I'm glad that you love Avatar the way you love her. And I'm glad that you know you consume her when you consume her. But please, Pastor, please. And I do love when a married couple don't mind acknowledging that they get down. I think that more married people should be sexy and freaked out, but not the pastor. We don't need the pastor to be freaked out. The tongue out was too far. The drink her, I drink her. Too far, Pastor. Too far. Okay, we're glad to know y'all getting down with the get down. Not the freaky pastor. Okay. Oh, much love. Thank you for the love offering, Lotus Divine. I appreciate it. Thank you. You said, hey, Max girl. Max said, what is the purpose of having a Christian pray for you if they are praying the opposite of what you are praying for? People are led to different things. Again, a lot of people feel deeply connected to Christianity because that is their ancestral practice, right? So, and within themselves, they know how to reconcile and balance the two, so that that's something that they have to reconcile. That's their personal relationship. I respect everybody's personal relationship and how their own divine understanding that works for them. People balance those in different ways, the Christianity with the root work, despite the fact that they although there are some commonalities because the root work was hidden within the church, as we know. I've already explained it multiple times in the beginning. I'm not going to reiterate it, but we know. Okay, you said them preachers rebuking crystals and sage, but sexing up the tenors. I cannot, and that's why they rebuking you, Sunilla. They rebuking you, Sunilla. You're telling their business. That's why they rebuking you. Okay, that's it. Okay, I think I already answered this question earlier in the video. How can I get back to connecting with the creator? I answered that in the beginning of the video a couple of times when I talked about the cleansing and doing the head wash. I talked about the road openers and all of that stuff. So that was earlier in the video. I'll go back and timestamp this video one of these days, okay, so y'all can go back and review it and have easy access. Was speaking to a good friend today about some things. In the middle of me speaking about those things, she says, who do you think you are, a queen or something? Should I feel some type of way? Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Yes, you should. Because my question would have been, who do you think I am? Who do you think I am? Oh, okay. Sometimes people tell you how they feel about you without directly telling you, huh? The hell? The Hellion? The Halle Berry? The Heliante? I love that little song. Shout out to Rob 49. What the hell? What the Hellion? What the Halle Berry? What the Heliante? He should have said, what the hell, what the hell, TD Jakes? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Y'all know I love TD. Shout out to the elder. Passed that church down to his daughter, as he should. I did a short about that on my socials. Hate if you want to, it's a family business. He said, my daughter gonna get this family business. Say what you want. I respect it. Protect that asset. Okay? How do you find your purpose in life? Everybody's purpose is to be a healer. Everybody's purpose in life is to be a healer. That's your purpose in life. Question answer. What's my purpose in life? To heal. A part of our soul contract is to be an improvement, to make some type of improvement upon this planet, upon this experience, right? You are a healer. The question then becomes, how do you heal? Healing can come in many ways. Healing, yes, it can be a root worker. Yes, it can be an intercessor, a prayer. Yes, it can be a doctor. It can be healing the justice system by being an activist. A healer can also be a comedian. A healer can also, because they heal through laughter. A healer can also be a chef because you can use the foods to heal and restore people's health and wellness. A healer can also be an artist, right? Because looking at your art brings clarity and joy and identifies people's emotions and helps them express. So painting, drawing, dancing, being a dancer, bringing life to emotions, right? Being an actor, an actress, and being able to create films, being a producer, director, and being able to bring people's stories to life is healing. There's so many different ways that you can be a healer. Your purpose in life is to heal. What is your healing path? That's the next question. And that's a question that you would have to ask yourself. What is my healing path? And this is my advice of how to answer that question quickly. What has helped you heal? How have you healed yourself? When you need to feel well, what is your go-to practice? What is your go-to thing? That is what you need to be doing, right? That is what you need to be doing. And that's how you'll have your answer of how to manifest. And the beautiful thing is your purpose, how your purpose shows up and manifests will shift and change over the years. It's not a monolithic one-note experience. So right now, you may be engrossed in yoga as your healing practice, and that brings you wellness. You become a yoga instructor and you help teach yoga, and then you get into Reiki, or then you get into herbs and herbology, or then you get into being an intuitive chef and cooking and things like that. You have the right for your purpose to change how it shows up, but your purpose is to heal. How you heal can shift over time. right? So that's it. Okay, that's sad. CJ, let me see. Okay, this I think this is gonna be the last one. Okay, is there any spiritual insight regarding having children or them coming into this world? That's a really good way to end. Speaking of, I need to check on some things. Uh, okay, all right, all right. But I have another friend who's in labor right now. Okay, so that's why I was like, I need to check on some things. Speaking of, I have another friend who's in labor right now. I had a doula client who thankfully has given birth. I have another friend who's in labor right now. So, good question. Okay, that was let the Lord use you. Huh? But when it comes to having children, right, or bringing them into this world, children coming into this world, especially during this year, as we know, this is the year of 9, and Oya is over the birth room, over bringing children from the womb to earth, right, to the physical realm, to life, right. She's also the keeper of stillborn children, right. So as well as the keeper of the Ibeji, the twins, right? Which is so interesting that Sinners came out this year, because Sinners is about the Ibeji, as Ryan Coogler has noted, and this is the year of 9, and Oya is over the Ibeji, which is quite an interesting connection. I wonder if he knew that divine connection when he chose to drop the film this year, because they've been working on it for some time, but I digress, okay? But when it comes to having children, bringing children into this world, there's it's ancestral, it's spiritual. Having children, being blessed with a certain amount of children, when they will come, is all divinely connected. It's all about soul contracts. There are ways to know if it's divinely aligned with you and when it will happen with you. You will need to connect with somebody who has that spiritual gift, or you can also ask for divine clarity yourself, right? Somebody who can connect with your spirit guides and with your ancestral energies to see if there are children that are meant to come earthside through you, right? So there's ways to possibly know that spiritually, and to know when that will happen and how that will happen and so on and so forth. There's definitely ways to know that. Now, there are things that you can do physically to kind of help aid that process as well, right? Of course, for a woman, it would be practicing womb wellness practices, right? Taking your herbs, your black cohosh, your dong quai, your raspberry leaf, taking your herbs like that to really kind of help with your nettle. Nettle is good. Calendula is also really good for womb wellness. Doing your womb massages with castor oil and eucalyptus or peppermint, and doing your womb massages to kind of open that area up, right? That will help increase fertility, right? Also, a little honey on the poom poom. Honey is good to balance the pH of the poom poom, and also, as we know, is good for attracting that love and fertility energy, right? And then for men, something that's good for men is a herb called maca root. Maca root, women can take maca root too, but maca root and ginseng is good for men. Also, tiger bone. Okay, you take a shot of tiger bone a day. Okay, and that will increase fertility. So good tiger bone has ginseng in it already. Okay, so you can literally take a shot of the tiger bone, and that'll cover you. Okay, if you are a man, but that increases fertility for men as well. There are things that men need to do that as well. And then, of course, cleansing your spiritual energy, because you want to make sure that you are spiritually well and connected. So cleanse your energy and make sure that you are prepared. Okay, just open yourself up, and you can let spirit know that you are ready. And the same thing works in the opposite way, where if you want if somebody doesn't feel prepared to be a parent, they can ask the spirit to leave them. They can ask the spirit to leave and return when they are ready. And that will result in a miscarriage. Okay? I said that was going to be the last question. I'm looking for a real good one. You said that was a good one too. But I'm going to do one more. That was a good one too. Okay, that was a really good one. Okay? I'm going to do one more though. You said, can you use tattoos to anchor energies into your life? Yes, tattoos are art, and tattoos can definitely anchor energy in your life. I have a whole arm of anchor symbols. I'm also going to get some of my tattoos removed. My friend was like, you going to get tattoos removed just to get more tattoos? I said, yes. And it has nothing. I'm very grateful for the energy and the intentions. I was very intentional about all of my tattoos and the meaning behind all of them. However, I had less money. I was in college when I got most of my tattoos. So you know that picture, it used to be like a meme that had like the $50 tattoo, the $500 tattoo, and the $5,000 tattoo. I got the $200-300 tattoos. I got a little more money so I could get better tattoos. So I'm getting a lot of my tattoos removed so that I can get better ones, higher quality. But I was always very intentional about what art I put on my body, because that does attract energy. It does carry energy, and it can align you with certain energy. Okay, so that's super, super important. All right, y'all, I think I'm gonna head out. Y'all know I could be going for days, honey. I'll be having to stop myself. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and head out. I love you too. Let me see who's one. I love you too. Much love, much love. Okay, family. Now let me shout out to everybody who sent a love offering, including V Conley and anybody else who sent a super chat. And then let me go to my Cash App and shout out my people. Latricia, Jody, Destiny. Okay, these are older ones too. Kenny, Jay, Penelope, Phyllis, Ebony, Carol, Alexis. These are people that I missed on the last one as well. And then I said Solandra and Amanda, I said y'all earlier. And then everybody else who sent a super chat. Much love and much wellness. And may it be abundantly, abundantly, abundantly returned unto you. I'm very, very grateful. Family, I'm going to go back and I am going to timestamp this live so y'all will be able to skim it just for easier access. Okay, just for easier access, so you could be able to go back and track it if you want to. Okay, I love y'all dearly. It's a whole lot of, I'm scrolling all the way down. It's a whole lot of baby, I ain't even get halfway through. I'll come back and do another Q&A at a later date, maybe later on during the week. I'll come back and do another Q&A with y'all, because baby, I didn't even get halfway down the chat. I'm like scrolling down like, oh wow, I didn't get halfway. Okay, but we was able to cover a lot, family. All right, I love y'all dearly, and I will see y'all soon. Keep in mind that full moon in Scorpio peaks on the 12th, and the shadow period lasts till the 15th. I already did a video on that earlier today, so get into that when you can, when you feel led. Okay, wellness community, I will see y'all tomorrow, aka later on today, because it's 12:33 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll see y'all tomorrow for our book club meeting. Okay, love y'all dearly, family. Much peace and have a good night.